Hey, what's up guys? Sir Emanon here, and bringing to you today the Brooklyn Regional Report in video form that I told you guys I was going to do. Sorry this is a bit delayed, but I had other videos planned obviously, and there were just things that, got in my way of making this video, but here we are. So yeah, I'm not going to be showcasing in replay form every single game, but I'm just gonna go over the major ones. If you want to see the deck profile, I'll leave a link in the description down below, as well as in that video you'll see the sort of match breakdown, and I'll put it again on screen here. But yeah, I'll mostly be going over the losses as well as like a key game from like many of the matches, although some of them were not super noteworthy, but I'll just go over them as we go along and watch the replays here. It took me a while to kind of just set up what I needed to as far as like recreating what I remembered as well as from the notes that I had, so apologize if there are some spotty details or some things that I kind of messed up, but yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna get into it. Alright, so round 1 was against Madolche, which is one of my losses. So you see here my hand wasn't looking too great, wasn't looking too bad, but we had a couple of dangers, so we wanted to see where we went here. And I think that, yeah, he won the die roll, so he made me go first. And I didn't really have, obviously, Collider Check in his hand, so I had to try and just make it work with dangers. So I start off by scaling Tigers so I don't lose it, and then I get a couple dangers. My danger hits weren't really the best. This wasn't maybe exactly in my hand, but I remember just not getting value out of it. Normal the Martin and then make a Nightmare Mermaid play, but the Mermaid gets hit with the Impermanence here. So I'm thinking, okay, we can maybe make a play with the Zephyros. Just bounce back the Tiger and then bounce back the Martin. Martin itself doesn't do anything because I can't bring back anything with it. So I just make an Appaloosa with 4 negates and then pass and hope it's enough. So his turn comes around, he goes into the main phase, and then as you're about to see here, he actually drops Dark Ruler no more to get rid of my Appaloosa, and he actually even leaves me 2. So I'm thinking this is looking pretty bad for me, I don't really have a good way to recover, and I might lose here. But then he has the Pedinxisor, which is a 1-card combo, so he is able to go into Glassiflay, which actually gets rid of all my graveyard, like anything that might be relevant here. So I'm pretty out of the water. Then he goes into his full combo, and he goes into Tiramisu too, so no Tiger for me. He has both Chateau and Ticket, and then I draw a Nessie, so I lose that game. Alright, so this is game 2. I draw pretty well here, and I go into Niroula and Azathoth to try and play around hand traps as well. But you're about to see I go for the Mermaid and it gets impermed once again. So yeah, I'm like, alright, this is kind of unfortunate because I invested into the Azathoth route, but whatever, still have to try and make a board. I go for a 4-strict since I have Serenade and Grave, and then I try and make another kind of just mediocre play, to be honest. I didn't really run enough rank 4s in this build, that's kind of a problem I noticed early on, and having Underclock would help me make Curious, but I just go Appaloosa pass again. This time he goes Pedinxisor, I just negate it, and he just sets it and passes. So obviously if you give us a window, we're just going to OTK. Alright, so this is game 3 here, and I noticed in game 2 that he said it as if he thought I would make him go first, but I kind of, one-upped him and I went first in that game. But in game 3, he actually just didn't side at all, so I thought he would be going first, so I sided in Nibiru, and I did draw here. But as you're about to see, even though he draws well enough that he feels comfortable comboing, there is a very clear reason why he felt able to combo. So he goes into Pedinxisor, ends on Glassiflay. I'm like, perfect, now's my chance. Going to drop the Nibiru, but then he drops Herald of Orange Light right here, and as you can see, he had another one to be able to pitch off of it, so negates my Nibiru and destroys it. My hand's not looking too good here. I also draw another Nibiru for turn, which doesn't really help anything. My only play is to Twin Twister my own Perfume since his Sistart is preventing me from targeting his stuff, but obviously in Resolution he's just going to use Glassiflay to shuffle everything back, so I don't really have anything there, and he's basically just going to OTK me, so I just lose there. Not the best start to this regional, but round 2 I'm against Sky Striker here, and I open a predominantly Orcust hand. You can see the only Lunalight card I have is Collider Check, so I just make a kind of mediocre Orcust play. I do have the Harp to start, so it makes sense slightly more, but not too much. I just basically ended Ningirsu Crescendo with Twin Twister set, but luckily against Striker, that's actually pretty good. He does open MST, so I have to negate it and banish it just to prevent his spell from going to grave. He sets 2 notably and then goes into Ray. He goes Hayate, attack to send the engage. I let that all happen, that's fine. I don't have any responses. He goes main phase 2 Kagari to add back the engage, and then with the engage he's going to use it to search a Widow Anchor. And obviously he sets it, but I now know where it is because he set the other 2 cards prior. So when it goes end phase, he is going to search with Shizuku for multi-roll, that's fine. But I go ahead and drop Twin Twister here, and then since I know where the Widow Anchor is, I just hit it. Obviously the other card I hit is Metaphor's Fusion, so never lucky. But I draw for turn, and what do you know, but it's actually a Tiger. So he flips There Can Be Only One, I send Ningirsu, that's fine, because I can out it pretty easily. Tiger gets back a Kaleido Chick, and I allowed to go to Phoenix to be able to pop There Can Be Only One. And from there, it's basically just game over because I have an Orcust play, and I have all the other Lunalight stuff. Didn't even use Zephyrs because I didn't open Lunalight cards, so I can just normal summon it because I didn't normal this turn either. Go into Borisword, go into a Azathoth play with Niroula. I forgot in the replay to showcase that I searched, but it doesn't really matter. Azathoth stops the raid, Ningirsu sends the Shizuku, and that's game from there. And then game 2, he essentially bricked. He had a Lantia to stop me for 1 turn, but it didn't really stop me in the long run from just OTKing him, so that's what happened there. Alright, so game 3, or round 3 I should say, I'm against Guru. I open really well, and I go the Azathoth route as well, even though he has no hand traps, but when you open well enough, you sometimes just take what you can get. I make it Curious, go into Eradicator first time this whole tournament, and then I'm able to do the Orcust play later on. So basically standard stuff. I go for Crescendo because I have the Galatea on board, and that's the end of my turn. So I stand by phase, Eradicator him, calling Spell like always, but his hand is 3 traps. So even though I do hit some pretty key spells, he has Guru and he has 3 traps, I still have to play 3. But luckily, since you do get to see their hand, I was able to play around them accordingly. So in my standby phase, he goes for the Duster to force out the Crescendo. So I obviously have to negate it. Then he flips There Can Be Only One, which sends my Mermaid. I go ahead and revive a Kaleido Chick with the Tiger, and then go into Borisword just to get different types off my field. He flips Crackdown to take it. I'm okay with that, because I can Symbol Revive Ningirsu to out There Can Be Only One. And then with my Martin Engrave, I can make or Tornado Dragon and out the Crackdown, which gives me back my Borisword, and then it's essentially over from there. Those cards in my hand might not have been those cards, but they helped me out to K. So game 2 of round 3, what happened was that we basically just kind of granted back and forth. He had There Can Be Only One up again, but this deck has a pretty easy time dealing with it with Phoenix and Tornado Dragon and other outs. So it wasn't too big of a deal. I was able to take care of that. I baited his Fiendus with Tenki, and then I flipped up Perfume, so I got what I needed anyway, and I basically just played through his board. Round 4 was against Grenmaju Trickstar with like the whole Gizmic engine and stuff. So game 1, we grind back and forth. It was a 25-minute game 1, but I eventually take it. Game 2, I draw pretty well, but I get Reincarnation, Trickstar Reincarnation, so my hand becomes a lot worse. Can't really play out of it, and then it just beats me down with Gizmic. And then this is going to be game 3 here. Okay, game 3, it's all down to the wire. It's about 7 minutes left on the clock, and even though I'm going first, I have to make a pretty decent play pretty quickly. So I go ahead and do the standard Orcust play through a Droll. I realize that it's not a Nessie in my hand, it's a Perfume, that's why I swapped there. But that's what allowed me to get the extra rank 4 on the board. I Cowboy him, even though I'm not like gonna slow play him, just to get the damage in, I guess. I wanted to use it sometime this tournament. I made Dweller for his Gizmic, and then I get Crescendo and pass. He super polys my entire Orcust board, he pitches a Licorice, but he doesn't use Starving Venom's effect on summon, which is kind of important for damage. He Lilybell attacks me, he gets Licorice back, he summons Licorice and then gets Lilybell back on the board, so he's not able to actually clear my Cowboy, which is still sitting there, but he does a fair bit of damage to me and he passes. He has a back row set, which I'll fix later on. I do take chip damage from the Licorice, and I actually burn him again with Cowboy, so I actually use Cowboy twice in a single game. Bouncing the Tiger back cost me another 200. I had to do all this play really quickly in about a minute or so. So I make Borisword, I go Ningirsu, I send his back row, which is just a dead card. And then I go into battle phase, I attack, and then I go Borosaur, attack, attack. And then at this point, it's battle phase, and we're in time, so like, you know, he gave me the window, and I appreciate it. So we were able to take that match there. Alright, round 5 against Striker, and I finally fixed the graphic on the right, but he actually opens double engage as well as array, so I'm pretty in for it. I do know he has one Widow Anchor at the end of his turn, and he sets engage with multi-roll and adds one with Shizuku, so I have to play through a fair bit here. I go ahead, reveal Mothman, it pitches Kaleido Chick. I draw something, it might have not been a Tenki, but it was not super consequential. He ogres my Kaleido Chick, which I'm totally fine with. So my Martin is still okay to go ahead and bounce Tiger, which I'll reuse a bunch of times. This is a Tornado Dragon, not a Dweller. I messed up the replay a bunch of times. I didn't feel like re-recording because I messed up like 3 times. I Tiger, bring back Kaleido Chick. I Tenki search another Tiger, and I scale it. He imperms so that my Tiger doesn't resolve, it gets negated. And then I Phoenix, destroy the last card, which I know is Widow Anchor. He obviously takes it, but I send a Zephyros, and my last card in hand probably isn't a Tiger because it helps me OTK with Azathoth, but as soon as I do the Orcust play, he scoops. And then game 2 of round 5 was kind of just, he made me start actually, but I got hand trapped on my Mermaid. So I ended with a somewhat mediocre board, but he doesn't really have too much either. And overall, it was a little bit back and forth, but I'm able to OTK him on my following turn. So that happened there. Round 6, 7, and 9 were all actually not super noteworthy. Round 6 was against Pendulum. Basically, game 1, I do my whole board with Eradicator. He scoops before I know what he's playing. Game 2, I figure it's maybe a combo deck, so I side into Biru. It is Pendulum, and when he summons 6 monsters without being able to start off with Servant, I just Nibiru him, and it's game over. Round 7 was against True Draco. Game 1, I do the Eradicator play, going first, and he scoops. He actually made me go first that time. But as soon as I flipped Eradicator, calling spell, he scooped, so I didn't get to see what he's playing again. Game 2, it wasn't... Yeah, he didn't really draw Floodgates, he went first. And he only drew double Continuous Trap, the Apocalypse and the Return, and he had Draco monsters. So I was able to play 3 double pops. I went for Niroula early because I thought it was maybe a Sky Striker brick. So I basically, kind of wasted that because he popped my Niroula on summon with an Apocalypse, but it was okay. I was able to force out the other one with a Force Strix, and I didn't OTK him from there, but I cleared his board and was able to have a Crescendo as well. So I just negate his diagram and I win from there. And then game 3, or sorry, that wasn't, round 9 is what I was meant to say, out of the other 3 rounds, was against Pendulum as well. Game 1, I was fortunate enough to win the die roll again. I make my play with Eradicator, and once again, he scoops before I can see what he's playing. Game 2, he makes his big, ridiculous board. He has, I believe, Zephyr cards as well. So I have double Twin Twister. It wasn't that the greatest. Try to force out his Divine Strike as well as his other cards, but he also has Aether, the Evil Empowering Dragon, off his seal, so I can't really win off that. And then game 3, I make my play, and he almost cracks my board, but luckily enough, Griffin is still really strong, and I was able to just negate his Electromite with Crescendo, and then on my turn, I was able to break his Scales, and then when it came back to his turn, he had 1 card, so able to win from there. But let's go ahead and look at match 8, or round 8, which was against Muscat, my other loss. Okay, so this is going to be the last round that I'm reviewing here, and this is round 8 against Muscat. This guy actually top 8'd, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, he let me go first, and I do my Eradicator play, but I don't open well enough to have an extra extender. I do have a Crescendo, which I fix later, but I don't have a link for it. So I go ahead and call a spell like normal. But he only has 2 spells, I believe, and he has Desperado and 3 monsters. So he goes ahead and normal summons his Starfire, and he activates his Desperado on my Griffin. So I chain the Symbol Engrave, and I go ahead and I send his monster, but he has max anyway, so I try and pop my own stuff so we can only summon 2 monsters. And yes, I know Caspar is not a level 4, but he did play level 4 for the Utopia double. So I actually made a misplay there. What I should have done was, prior to him summoning Max in the first place, I had an extra Orcust Nightmare that I wasn't able to use last turn because I believe I opened it and then I pitched it. So I should have used it to bump my guy up some additional attack points, as well as being able to send Harp and then summon a blocker because he didn't have enough attack points to actually OTK me through Dingirsu. So if I just left the Shump blocker, I could have maybe come back. But that's what happened in game 1. Game 2, I go first. I kind of try and call his bluff, but it backfires a little bit because I don't open enough Lunalight cards. So I just have to go for an Orcust play, and then he actually just Nibiru's me. So I got Nibiru'd there. I Nibiru'd somebody else earlier, so it's all fair play. And yeah, that's how I lost. So overall, once again, I went 7-2, got 24th place, and this was my regional report. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do leave a like if you had a good time watching the dueling book replays as a visual aid to kind of help illustrate the experiences. If you have any constructive feedback as well as just general comments as far as how to make this series better, I would love to hear them in the comment section down below. But once again, thank you guys for watching. Really do appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos similar to this style of video, and I will catch you in the next video. See you guys.